plane carrying 132 people crashed in China.
Russia canceled the peace treaty with Japan due to beginning sanctioned.
And the loss of 6 Russian generals in Ukraine war highlights the botched communication system of the Russian military.
Today's featured interview, how a U.S. Olympian and his father were targeted by CCP spies.
Welcome to Wen and Kathy Show. I'm your host, Wei Fang.
I'm Kathy Zhang.
All right, good Monday.
Right, hope you had a great weekend.
Yeah, hope you have a good mood for the coming week. And so today, Kathy will bring you a feature interview of what CCP did to a U.S. Olympia family.
Yeah, you remember, we talked to you about the different Olympians, right?
Yeah.
Especially Chinese descent. But this time, the story is very different. And it relates to the announcement by the Department of Justice last Wednesday about how the CCP spies are actually doing a lot of things in the United States.
Yep. And the Russian-Ukraine war has been raging on, and what can we learn from it? Okay, we're gonna look into the so big a loss of the Russian generals in this war, 6 of them in just within less than 1 month. So we'll be looking to that. But before that, let's look at the other important news of today. A China Eastern airline, Boeing 737-800, with 132 people on board, crashed in the mountains of southern China on a domestic flight on Monday after a sudden descent from the cruising altitude.
In a little over 2 minutes, the plane dropped from 29,000 feet to the ground. A monitor camera of a factory less than 1 mile away captured the near vertical dive of the Boeing 737-800. All people on board are believed to have died.
So different from the troubled Boeing 737 MAX, which you may still remember, which recorded 2 crashes in 2018 and 2019, one to Indonesia airline, another to Ethiopia airline. Due to the faulty flight control system, the Boeing 737-800 actually is a very secure model with great flying record. It's mostly used in North America, Europe, and Asia. Actually, as of today, 4 leading airlines of the U.S. bought and operating 700 737-800. All right, so every day, 200 of such model, the plane of such model, flying in the airspace of the U.S.
And what is the most weird about this crash is the near vertical dive, as most crash won't take such a sharp angle. Words from China's social media said it was a human-controlled crash.
Well, Chinese government vowed to investigate it, but we'll see. Basically, on this kind of situation, seldom we can trust its transparency, but people still want to know what happened.
Yeah, one side note is that actually they corrected the numbers of people who died,
Oh,
the
really?
passengers, from 133 to 132. So the only one person who was supposed to be on this plane, actually at the final moment, he decided not to get on board. So he was actually became the lucky one who survived.
Okay, so another international news is that Russia has withdrawn from a peace treaty talk with Japan and frozen joint economic projects related to the disputed Kuril Islands to the north of Japan due to the sanctions imposed by Tokyo over Ukraine. And this is the statement from the Russia foreign ministry.
And Russia and Japan have still not formally ended the World War II hostilities because of the standoff over the islands known as Russia as the Kurils and in Japan as the Northern Territories.
Yeah, basically there are 4 islands there, which was occupied by the Russian military at the end of the World War II, and Japan insists that this is occupied territory, but Russia refused to return them. So they've been carrying on this so-called peace treaty, talk for basically decades, right? And then the Russian statement said, under the current condition, Russia does not intend to continue negotiation with Japan on the peace treaty. And he said that Japan's openly unfriendly position and attempts to damage the interests of our country.
And last week, Japan announced the plans to revoke Russia's most favored nation trade status, expand the scope of asset freezes against Russia's elites, and ban imports of certain products.
Okay, a side harm is Russia has also withdrawn from the talks with Japan about the joint business projects on the island and ended the visa-free travel by Japanese citizens. Many Japanese citizens travel to the island to visit the grave of their ancestor. Okay.
Right.
So that's that.
So there's another death of the Russian general, the vice commander of Russian Black Sea Fleet, Major General Pali, was killed yesterday. As of then, Russia has lost 5 generals in its war against the Ukraine, which is a significant number compared to the estimated total 20 generals of the invading army.
Yeah, just think about, when you have 20 generals, 6 of them are gone, what kind of, turmoil that would have caused to the remaining, the military and also to the soldiers who they led. So Radio Free Europe actually have a special report illustrating and highlighting how this could have happened, all right? So let's say the conclusion first. Many Western military experts suggest that the Kremlin and its planners botched their communication in the early weeks of the invasion. And the report suggesting that a unsecured call may have aided Ukrainian forces in targeting at least one of the Russian generals who have reportedly been killed in the conflict.
And many Russian prisoners of war revealed that they had no way of communication in battlefield. One soldier complained, "We have no communication, we have no walkie-talkies, nothing."
So why so? Okay, so the report said the roots of the Russian communication lapse lies in several areas. The first one is the mismanaged development and the procurement process for the things like tactical military radio. They just did not buy enough before the invasion, and undertrained and underdeveloped radio specialists, and also the challenge of operating on foreign soil, which did not happen during their normal training time. Right, first time they leave their country, then the Ukrainian and the cellular towers are foreign cellular tower, so they don't have a cellular network. They don't get to use the wired communication. That caused turmoil to the communication system.
And also when the communication needs involve mixed air, land, and naval forces, all troops are forced to use a system that's common to the least advanced among them.
Yeah, for example, the 80th Combined Arms Army used a much modernized communication system compared to the old devices used by the 90th Guards Tank Division. Both are among the army groups that attack Kiev.
Yeah, so what to do? You have to restore the lowest common resort to the lowest common denominator, which is insecure and can be decrypted in real time.
Yeah. So before we proceed, a short history about the Russian military on the communication matter. Okay. So in August of 2008, Russia had a 5-day war in Georgia. And over 2 breakaway Georgian regions. And that the 5-day war exposed a serious problem, the serious lack of the tactical military radio. At one point, an Air Force officer flew by helicopter to hand over orders personally, believe it or not, okay? So the Russian General Staff vowed to resolve the problem, in 2 years by 2011. So every Russian soldiers will have a tactical military radio device in his hand. So, well, later this job was given to a company whose owner was an advisor to the then president Medvedev. If you still remember him, he was the kind of like a puppet put on in the presidential seat by Putin, and Putin have to only serve as the prime minister due to the constitution of the Russia. And then so it has been the subject of the multiple criminal investigations for fraud in the manufacture of that device. So the device finally available is called Azats, and it was available in 2012 after missing so many deadlines. However, they turned out to be quite unpopular among the troops. So for example, in the Syria war, Russian soldiers just used a civilian walkie-talkie manufactured by China's Baofeng company. The consequence, well, at first, the benefit is very convenient. The consequence, insecurity. But it caused no harm, because at that time, the rebels in the Syria, they don't know how to hack or decrypt the Russian communication, all right? So then the Russian military finally ordered around 60,000 Azats. What's the cost? For $171 million US dollars for the current rate. What does that mean? It means $3,000 a piece. And then it can only, supply 1/3 the number of the Russian troops in Ukraine. Okay, even they give the entire pack of the 60,000 all to the invading, troops. Only 1/3 of them have this in their hand, and each of it is $3,000, in cost. So they plan to equip actually 45 brigads, but did not happen. And then it also did not resolve the communication between the army and the air force. All right. So as the army moved into the foreign territory, what should have happened? Okay, if things are right, actually repeater cars, and the new communication towers needs to be installed along the way as you move in. Okay, but that setup and the use require experienced operator, and the Russian army apparently did not bring enough of them. They did not build those repeaters and the towers as they move along. So and then the military commentator said that indirectly this also indicates that the Russian offensive groups did not expect to stay on the road for a long time. They think it's just 2 or 3 days. They don't need to do that. All right. So then, during the war, many soldiers and officers succumb to the temptation to use just ordinary phone. They just take the phone and call. So what do? They simply take out Ukrainian SIM card. Okay, just take out the Russian SIM card, swap in the Ukrainian SIM card, and call their mom. Mom, I'm in the war. I'm in Ukraine. I'm just, I miss you, and so on and so forth, which are all heard by the Ukrainian military because the communication happened through the Ukrainian SIM card, which goes through the Ukrainian cellular tower. It's all heard.
Oh, wow.
This is what happened, okay? So Ukrainian people, when they do the communication, they have everything encrypted because it's their network. But the Russian SIM card communication goes through that in plain language. So Ukrainian government and the intelligence can easily intercept the content of the conversation, and also can determine the location of the caller. See, that's the answer. When they detect somebody's talking like a general, issues order of a general, and we know the location of the general, chances are they're going to send an attack force or send a missile to that very location. So different from people's speculation that Russian generals move themselves too much in the front of the battle line. No, they were identified at least, that's a credible report, at least one general was taken out that way. But chances are there have been more than one generals. And then this is the next piece of the episode is true, okay? It's true, it's quite shocking, okay? Remember in the early days of the invasion, Russian ordered this Chechen hat, okay? His name is Ramzan Kadyrov. And and ordered him to lead a convoy of 49 armed vehicles to find and assassinate President Zelensky, and then the entire corps was wiped out. Okay, and then before that happened, and the Chechen had actually suggested a commander in his corps who was traveling to Moscow on the eve of the war to obtain some clean Ukrainian SIM cards. So ask his officer, go to Moscow, buy some unused SIM card, because after we start the war, we need to talk and we need to plug in those Ukrainian SIM card. Can you believe it?
Wow.
They have no way to talk to their people.
That's kind of inconceivable.
So you probably can imagine that why that troops was completely wiped out. But it could be that U.S. military satellite was watching their move and tipped the Ukrainian troops. But it also could be they was just using the Ukrainian SIM card and got hurt. This was reported by the BBC. And where did the BBC get the information? The BBC got this audio recording of this Chechen person
So they
issuing those order in the audio message.
They did got the recording.
Yeah, they got that. So it's quite incredible, when things like this could happen to a modern time military. You just use the enemy country's SIM card to do your communication. Basically, just open yourself up to them. Okay, so so basically, many Russian generals, per the report, talk on unsecured phones and radios. So, which caused the Ukrainian military to geolocate a call and kill such general. After obtaining his location.
If that's true, then it does give some hints and the lessons to
every country.
Whoever.
Every country has to learn from this. I'm sure, like CCP, China or CCP and Taiwan has to learn from that. They were the, nearest next regional war.
Yeah. So actually, I've been just trying to read through some of the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah. Do you believe
Matt.
that?
Actually, Matt Johnson said, "Hey, I know you are against the CCP. You think Russia is allied with the CCP? What do you? Yeah. So I think there's some discussion on this subject. Maybe we can." kind of touch upon that.
Yeah, actually, there's a different point of view on that. And I know that a different, argument and point of view. One is, Russia really is totalitarian regime, right? And start this invasion just outright that way. And then it's a very unjust war. Some other point of view is like this is deep state aligning with Zelensky and try to trap Putin, and so on and so forth. Okay, let me just share with you my point of view, and based upon my observation.
Yeah. Would you before you're going through that, would you like to answer Matt's question? He said, "You think Russia is allied with the CCP, or you wanted to just kind of mingle that into what you want to explain?"
I sort of How about let me just share my point of view, and you can think about it. If you don't agree, that's fine. Just post there, and then we can do some interaction or communication here. So. My understanding, based on my observation, yes, I do see that CCP and Russia are lying here. But before that, that the Cold War is over, right? Cold War is over. Russia become a non-communist country, but it's still, type of regime. Okay, have some totalitarian kind of nature. Okay, so the West saw Russia as as still a old communist regime, okay, and then so this kind of a point of view carry on after the Cold War is over, and the point of view was especially intensified after the 2008 Georgia War, and after the 2014 the annexation of the Crimea. All right, the West was seeing that, gosh, they were so bold and outrageous, and they just come over and grab the land. We have to stop them. Okay, so the point of view upon Putin after the Cold War is carry on. They just inherited that point of view by both parties. Okay, both parties, not just the Democrat, but also by many Republicans. The only person who saw it differently, guess whom? Is the President Trump. President Trump see that Russia is not a communist nation anymore. There's a very good chance for the U.S. to reach out and pull Putin out of there and into the camp of the West. Give him modernization, give him economic, prosperity, give him free economy, free market, or say, lead him to free market. And there's a very good chance to do that. Okay, and he was starting to do it even before when he was running for office, right? Remember that?
You mean Trump?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, beginning in the 2018, you heard Trump said, why have an enemy with Putin? We can be friends. When he was saying that, this was politically incorrect, right? Because Russia was the enemy. Russia equals the Soviet Union, and people just don't understand him, and people don't agree with him. And after he won the presidency, the Russian gate become, his, the attacking place for his political enemy. So his idea of pulling Putin out into the Western world, into the free world, did not happen. All right. So now, then later, when after 2020 election and President Biden, he basically just carry on the old strategy. Okay, it's the enemy. We need to arm Ukraine. We need to even pull Ukraine into the West, into the NATO, okay? Actually, since 2015, U.S. has been sending military specialists, trying to modernize Ukrainians' army, try to train them, bring them up to speed. Actually, this has been happening all along the way because of the Crimea, okay? So starting with President Obama and then throughout President Trump and until today. So all those things sow the deep distrust in the heart of Putin. He really hates this. He said, you always view me as the arch-enemy, and you always try to push over and someday try to overtake Russia. So he feels this great insecurity and also feel that he's losing the great Russia, which is his dream. So even Putin is not a communist, but he have his ambition. He want to recover the glory of the Russia. So then now he's been treated this way by the West. So this hatred, this discontent just grow in his heart. So then when he was ready to find a reason now after seeing that Ukraine is drawing close to NATO and even have a chance to join NATO, he really got mad. So he built up the army there and is thinking about invading. Okay, of course, that took a lot of risk, right? What if he faced, just tremendous amount of sanction? What would he do? He saw that Biden would not stop him with force. Biden is not Trump. So he see a chance, he see a weakness there. But what about the sanction? So that's why he went to Beijing in February 4th. He talked to Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping pretty much, okay, I was not there, but pretty much Xi Jinping packed his bag, say, go ahead. I will cover
because
you.
they signed a treaty, like
15 agreements.
15 agreements about
including $120 billion of the oil deal.
Right, and also saying the cooperation between the two countries is unlimited.
There's no bound.
Right.
So Xi Jinping, communist China, packed the bag of the Putin and simply said, essentially, go right ahead. We'll cover you. If there's a sanction, we got the second largest economy in the world opened up door for you. Don't worry about that. That's how Putin pulled the trigger, okay, of the invasion, and start the invasion. And everybody thought it's a quick war. It's another play of just another version of the Crimea. 2 or 3 days, the country will be overrun. And even on the second day, the U.S. government notified President Zelensky, we're going to airlift you out. Come out. That's when he said, I need ammunition. I don't need it right? So China thinks it's a quick win. Putin thinks it's a quick win. And Biden thought it's a quick loss. So the game will be over in 3 days. And Xi Jinping was figuring out, by helping with the winning war, it's not bad.
Yeah. Also, just from what you described, that's according to how I talked to some of the experts. CCP, the Chinese Communist government, they not necessarily saying we are firmly stand with Russia, just like they did with North Korea, right? But what they like is to really try to instigate the divider or even the war so that they can benefit in between.
So basically, if Russia and the West has a big war, CCP would feel that I'm sitting on the wall, okay?
Right.
I'm benefiting left or right. Because to stop Russia, the West has to come to back me. And then to win over the West, Russia has to come here to back me.
Yeah, so
he thought
that's why.
Yeah, he would win anyway.
Right.
But one thing went wrong. Only one thing went wrong. This guy, Zelensky, he did not yield. He just doesn't yield. And with him not running away from his post, the entire Ukrainian people stand and fight. And nobody expect that. It was such a fierce, fight, such a fierce resistance. And to the point of today, as you can read, I don't know whether you agree to me or not. I just, I read enough news report, and we also interview military expert. And now, Putin was in the deep, how to say?
Hot water.
Yeah, hot water. He couldn't win the war, and the time goes by, he couldn't win the war even further. Okay, now here comes trouble. Okay.
Yeah, but I think by analyzing that, there's no, we're not talking. That's how I, according to what I know, we're not talking about, because some people have different information or different opinions on how President Zelensky, what kind of person he is or what kind of government he is. We're not talking about that because, right now there are facts, there are videos and photos showing that the Russians are bombing the residents in Ukraine. So but we are not talking about because from my previous, the information I received previously before this war, actually in Ukraine, people are not satisfied. Had actually a lot of disagreement with how the government is handling handling the pandemic, how they're handling the economy. There's no way. It's not saying that we think this government is good or how Zelensky is good or not. It's totally a different topic. Yeah. So because I do have some contacts in Ukraine, and they report to me some of the protests during the pandemic, how the government trying to impose some very strict laws especially to those small business, and making them just feel like unbearable. So actually in September, let me see, that's into September 2020. So it was so unbearable. So people tens of thousands of Ukrainians, they just went onto the street to protest the parliament in Ukraine, trying to pass a series of laws which make them feel that they cannot support their small business anymore. So yeah, it's a totally different thing, I think.
Yeah, he wasn't the first. The rating of President Zelensky wasn't very high before the war, and then there's one thing. The second, there's indeed a lot of bad blood between the Ukraine and Russia over the eastern region, which is a region of conflict. But anyway, the story comes to the war. When the war came, indeed, President Zelensky just held on. He was there, and then he's still there, and then that makes all the change. Okay, this break all the the estimate or prediction of every concerned party. So when he stand, his people stand. So Ukraine is holding firm here, and then the war doesn't seem to be a quick one-sided win. Now they enter a war for attrition. And with the Russian military's logistic issue, with the current laws, and also the communication issue we just talked about, it become a very, very difficult war for Putin. So this is where we are, and the U.S. now see the chance they're going to keep supplying Ukrainians. So, the balance will tip as time goes by, and the Ukrainian will be strengthened more and more. And then now we'll see that how this would end. At this time, okay. And President Putin pretty much just doubled down, right? He just fired this supersonic missiles, which is not really necessary because the normal cruise missile can do the same damage. But he did that. He did that 3 times to show power. It's basically, see, I'm still strong. And then he's even talked about the evacuation of the for the nuclear war, which really got the West nervous. So basically, he's trying to show to be strong so that I think either he want to get something on the negotiation table, and end all this in a somewhat decent way, or he really lose his mind. I hope not the latter. Okay.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's just the war with the war going on, the lives lost in both Ukraine and Russia is just, I think most people just would wish the war will just, get over as soon as possible.
Yeah, but a clear benefit, of this war, from my point of view, being the Chinese American, is indeed it showed the weakness of the Russian military.
Chinese American.
I'm sorry, Chinese American, yes.
Oh, okay.
Chinese American from China, right? And the war actually make Taiwan safer. Okay, why? Because Taiwan was really, really afraid of CCP when their huge army and air force and navy, invade. The only hope they have is, please, American, please come to help rescue us. Now they see Ukrainian, they don't do this. They stand firm and they fight. And then with that fight, they are winning their country back. So the Taiwanese, they were greatly strengthened. Their will is, I didn't know that we could fight to our death and earn our life. Okay, that's what they learned. This is one thing. The second is pretty much Chinese military borrow, steal, or bought Russian and Ukrainian military technology. Okay, they were viewed as one of the superpower, right, during the Cold War, and all their like Dongfeng, the East Wind, the big, gigantic missile, and they were Ukrainian technology. Now the world see that Russian technology is just so. Okay, it's far from the level of the West. Now people are seeing that this CCP technology, military strength, how powerful they are. So both sides, CCP themselves and the American and the West, come to reality, seeing that how much they really have in their toolbox. And the Taiwanese people now have a much strengthened will to safeguard their home. I think this is positive thing coming out of this.
One of the positive things that so many Taiwanese people, they just realized. And I think it strengthened their belief of they have to really strengthen themselves rather than seeking for outside helper.
Yeah. And in Chinese word, there's a word called 自助者天助之. Okay, the heaven will save you only if you save yourself. You're willing to save yourself. So that's
I don't know, I saw so many discussions, but I don't have enough time just to glance through all. So how do you think? Because there are just so many information out there, and sometimes really just on the two sides of the scales. And so we have been asked by some of our audience, to discuss that. And I actually didn't
got to do much.
Yeah.
Let's read some comment. And Anonymous, and you said, I honestly think that once Russia owns Ukraine, there's a 100% chance for China to invade Taiwan. I agree with you. That's true. Yeah. If China or the CCPs, saw that, it's so easy for Russia to take Ukrainian, and the West is weak, they are not strong. Okay, they stand by. They were standing by. Why don't I do it too? And of course, then Matt Johnson said Taiwan is recognized country. Ukraine is not. I think your point of view is that the U.S. will defend Taiwan. I think that's have much bigger likelihood, but the answer is still uncertain. Okay, we don't know. We don't know our government, the U.S. government, would fight for set the boots on Taiwan. Would they do that or not? We don't know. So Taiwan have to fight himself to earn the chance.
Yeah, by themselves.
By themselves to earn that chance. So now the Ukraine war, just set a model for the world to see, for everybody to see.
Yeah, and also said earlier, I wanted to say America has no business in any of this. It's not our country. However, the whole nuke agreement we made in the past kind of shot us in the foot. I think it, quite some our fellow Americans have the same sentimentality, right?
Yeah.
Sentiment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see hate CCP. I hate CCP. You wrote that like Zelensky equals to Biden and the Biden CCP puppet. Allow me to share my point of view, okay? Biden could work with the CCP under the table before he become president. But after he became the president, his entire thought changed, because now he's seeing things from a different angle, okay? And CCP become the, well, in his eyes, competitor. Now it's become some kind of like a strategic threat. He does not view CCP as a fatal enemy yet, but his entire point of view changed. Okay, so if you say Biden is a CCP puppet, I disagree. He's not. He could become, but he's not. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that. In my, if you believe me.
Really?
Yeah, you don't need to worry about that, because now they don't live together. Okay, they just don't live together. Biden, in one way, represents the free world at this time. He's still the president of the United States. Okay, in another way that if you think that he represents the radical leftist, or he got control or influenced by the radical leftist, and that force does not live with the CCP either. Okay,
that's true.
They don't live with the CCP either. Both want exclusive power. When they meet, they fight. They don't collaborate. Okay, and so this is the situation. So I think by mixing this together, we muddle the picture. We don't see the clear threat of our world. Okay, they don't mix together. They fight.
Yeah. So what I think is what's the state of Biden? I cannot say for sure. Both scenario that weigh and analyzed, I think that's also all possibilities. But to which extent that he's on which side, it could be a combination. But for one thing, I think I agree that even the extreme left, they won't really be like they won't be with the CCP totally.
They won't collaborate with them, because they are, how to say?
They are about absolute power.
Yeah, they are both.
To put it simple.
Do you believe that? Do you believe in that? They don't mix. So yeah. And I hate CCP. I don't think you need to worry about that. And as for Biden equals to Zelensky, I personally don't think so. But I don't think we have enough time.
But I think if any of you have like some evidence or some facts, we would love to hear that
yeah.
or read about that.
Right.
So yeah, because we are not saying we know everything, right? So we try to do the best that we can, and oftentimes, for myself at least, I always learn from, our viewers, the experts that I interview. So yeah, please, if you have some information that you think we missed, please share with us.
Yeah.
If you don't want to post here, send us email sohnews@soundofhope.org.
Yep. Okay, so now. Enough of the Ukrainian war. Let's talk about our Olympics, right? Our Olympian family. So what's the story, Kathy?
Yeah, so one of our the Team USA, okay, the US Olympian, who is also the national figure skating champion, Alisa Liu, she visited her hometown in China for the first time during the Beijing Winter Olympics and was welcomed by her fans. However, what she and the outside world did not know was that she and her father were targeted by the CCP spying operation before going to China. So why did the CCP target them? That's the story I'm gonna share with you with a feature interview. So most of you may or may not know, Alisa Liu is the youngest ever national figure skating champion in the United States, having won her first championship at age of 13. She's also the youngest woman to win 2 senior national titles at the age of 14. Now, Alisa Liu is 16 years old, and she went to the Beijing Winter Olympics as Team USA's youngest figure skater. She finished 7th on her Winter Olympic Games debut in the women's single competition in February. Alisa Liu and her father Arthur Liu were among the CCP spying targets that the Department of Justice alleged last week. DOJ on March 16th announced charges against 5 men accused of acting as the agents of Chinese Communist government in a series of brazen and wide-ranging schemes to stalk and harass Chinese dissidents in the United States. Arthur Liu said he and his daughter, Alisa, were included in the criminal complaint as dissent number 3.
Dissident.
I'm sorry. So as a dissident number 3 and a family member, respectively. So you may wonder who is Alisa Liu's father, Arthur Liu. Liu is currently an attorney in Oakland, California, which is across the bridge where we are. He is a former political refugee from China. In 1989 June 4th student movement, Liu was a graduate. At that time, he's a graduate student in English and American literature at a university in Guangzhou called Sun Yat-sen University, which is in southern China near Hong Kong. During the student democracy movement, Liu was elected by the local students as the chairman of the Patriotic Student Association of Guangzhou Universities. After the Beijing authorities cracked down on the student movement on Tiananmen Square on June 4th, Liu continued to organize protests in Guangzhou in the following days. He was subsequently listed on the wanted list by the local authorities. So eventually he was rescued and fled to Hong Kong and then came to the United States by the end of 1989. So through working in a Chinese restaurant while studying in the night school, Arthur Liu became an attorney in the Bay Area, focusing on civil litigations, business transactions, immigration, and criminal defense. And as Alisa, when she was only 5 years old, Arthur Liu started to take her to the local ice center and taught her how to skate. And then nowadays, until now, we saw how Alisa Liu turned out, right? So with regards to the DOJ's allegation of CCP Spies operation targeting Arthur Liu and his daughter Alisa Liu, so I started my interview with Arthur Liu by asking how much he knows about it and what exactly happened.
First of all, I was approached by the FBI last October that the Chinese agents are trying to collect my information and my daughter's information, particularly our passport information. And I even heard that they wanted my most recent photographs of me. And I was warned by the FBI, and I was aware of what was going on. And they wanted me to watch over my shoulders, pay attention to my surroundings.
So why do you think the Chinese Communist government targeted you and your daughter?
The reason I think is because I participated in the organization of the protests during the democracy movement back in 1989 in China. I was subsequently wanted by the Chinese government after the Tiananmen Square massacre, and I was able to come to the United States as a political refugee. I think even after 30-some years, the Chinese government still remembers what I did back in 1989. 1999. And because my daughter is a figure skater, she has been making a lot of progress. She won U.S. nationals in the last couple of years, twice in a row in 2019 and 2020. So she had a very good prospect of making Team USA in the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. So what I think is the Chinese government was really afraid that I might go to China and use the opportunity to condemn the human rights violations, to promote democracy or human rights in China. And also my daughter, like 2 or 3 years ago, she posted on her Instagram to condemn the human rights violations committed by the government on the Uyghurs in Xinjiang province. So I think the Chinese government was aware of that, even though at that time she was only 13, 14 years old. And I think they were afraid that my daughter might speak up and say stuff like that during the Olympic Games. So they were trying to have a kind of tight control of me and my daughter. That's what I think why they were doing this to us, because this is really going to the extreme to hire investigators, to send spies to the U.S. to gather information and our passport information in the U.S. So it's wrong. Obviously, it's against international law and also against U.S. laws to spy on anybody here in the United States.
Yeah, they not only send the spies from China, but also they hired like Americans, right? In your case as well.
Right. They hired American, local people to help them engage in such conduct. Their plan was to have this man from Florida to come to the Bay Area to plant GPS trackers on my cars, to collect our passport information, to gather our social security numbers and our personal information. And my understanding that he came to the Bay Area at least twice, and I don't know how long he stayed each time.
Did you have personal encounter with him?
I had a personal, like over the phone. I clearly remember one day I received a phone call from somebody, sounds like a Caucasian man. He said he represented to me that he is an official from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, that he needs my passport copies and my daughter's passport copies to check if we are ready for international travel. And I felt suspicious because, I actually never had any interactions with the U.S. Olympic Committee back in October or before that. My most contact was with the U.S. Figure Skating Association. So I was a little bit suspicious that he would be calling me to get the information. So I told him, I would submit the copies the next day directly to my contact in the U.S. OPC. So I didn't give him any personal information over the phone. But my understanding is that he actually came to the Bay Area 2 days ago when the news broke. My neighbor came over and told us that he actually saw this man at least twice lurking around my office. And I don't know what else he did to me. Their plan was to plant a GPS tracker in my vehicles and gather my other personal information. So I may have had personal encounters with him, but I wouldn't recognize it was him or what they were doing, because I'm in the open, they are in the dark. So I had no means to identify them.
Right. Since the FBI warned you, advised you, so were you worried to sending, still having your daughter going to China, and did she encounter any trouble over there?
I was extremely concerned about my daughter's personal safety at that time because at that time, from her past achievement, we felt that she had a very good chance of representing the United States in the Winter Olympic Games. And with the Chinese government collecting our information and going to such an extent to do this, that made me really frightened, and very concerned about her personal safety. So I talked to the FBI, of course, about that, and they pretty much assured me that she will be safe because she will be with the U.S. delegation. She will have team leaders. She will have teammates, and also the other officials from the State Department, from the U.S. Olympic Committee. There are a lot of officials there watching over her. So, I felt pretty good about sending her there. But at the same time, of course, as her father, I'm still very worried about her safety.
Yeah. Did she had any trouble over there or any suspicious,
She would not really know if she was followed or if they did something to her, except there was one incident. I believe she told me there was like late night. She and another skater went to the cafeteria to get some ice cream. They couldn't sleep because that was after the free skate in the Olympic Games. So they were done. The competition was over. So they couldn't sleep, and so they went to the cafeteria. And there was a Caucasian man intentionally sitting next to them and engaged in conversations with them, even shook hands with them, and invited them to go to his apartment. And my daughter got a little bit suspicious, and then they left. But then he followed them to their apartments building. So yeah, and I believe my daughter reported the incident to the authorities at that time, but we don't know what happened. If they had any investigation as to who that person is and what he was doing there, what his role was, But he clearly was not an American. He spoke English, and he had an accent. So
he had an accent?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so now does your daughter, now she's back and the news broke out, from the DOJ, is she aware of that right now?
She is aware of what happened, and her first reaction was, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" I said, "Well, I didn't want to scare you."
Yeah.
I didn't want to scare you, So she's pretty mad about what happened, But what can she do? She's only 16.
Yeah. So do you ever talk to her about what Chinese Communist government did and is doing, and what they did to you back 30 some years ago? Do you ever talk to her about those things?
I have told her my story. So she's aware of my background, and according to her Instagram post, she's very proud of what I did back in 1989. So she's fine with it. She supports me.
Yeah, because a lot of Chinese parents may not, tell their kids who were born here, never had any knowledge about Chinese Communist Party. So sometimes their kids not really aware of those, what's really happening there, and also things are happening here as well.
Yeah, she's a little bit shocked to learn, that the Chinese spies are on us, and she's really mad about it.
So, from your experience, what would you like to say to our fellow Americans about what you and your daughter experienced?
We first of all, we have to live our lives as we want. We should not be stopped by anybody, or threatened by anybody, or intimidated by anybody. The way, for the way of life that we enjoy in America, we enjoy the freedom of speech, freedom of association, and we have the rule of law here. That's number one. Number two, I think you you have to be aware of your surroundings and who's around you. And I'm not saying to be suspicious of everyone who approaches you, but but definitely have a second thought as to who you're dealing with. Be careful, because the Chinese government would do anything to try to accomplish their goals.
Yeah. Thank you, Arthur, for sharing with our audience.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. So, Arthur Liu, the last thing he shared with us is be aware of who you are dealing with. He refers to CCP. So that's really the purpose we share these stories with you, is just to be aware, trying to help our fellow Americans to understand who we are dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one phenomenon is, and this most recent DOJ charge show that Chinese government has been becoming more bold in this country, in the United States of America. They're targeting Chinese Americans that they don't like, who are dissident. They're becoming bold. They spy on them. Sometimes they even attack them, which did not happen before. U.S. is a powerful and and a proud and country with a great self-esteem. Esteem. They are not to just coming in and just it's just like they become the policemen of Chinese American in this country.
Right, and to see how the tactics they are using right now, not only the Chinese Americans, the Chinese nationals, they also hire the local Americans.
They're learning.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how they in this way they make their attacks more like less detectable. And so we really we would like to everyone to understand the nature of Chinese Communist Party and be aware of. To be frank, really. Somehow a lot of Americans just feel that Russia is the most dangerous enemy of the United States, but we don't believe so. Really, the CCP is the most dangerous enemy of the United States. And like we discussed before, this war in Ukraine right now could have been avoided, right?
Yeah, if Trump were here. And I just want to stress that, think about that. Russia, how powerful is Russia? Russia's economic power, okay, the GDP is less than Italy, okay, and
it's only 10% of CCP. I was told by an expert.
Of what?
The economy of Russia is only 10%.
One tenth of China.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't have any power. So without CCP, Russia has zero chance to withstand the sanction. Without CCP, the North Korea won't even exist today. Without CCP, Cuba and Venezuela have no chance to exist today.
What about Iran?
Yeah, same thing there. So China is funnel support and sustain and prop up all those former communist regime or the current communist regime. And then that's really the root of the evil in this world, and a lot of evil in this world. So if that regime can be done away with, or disappear, the world will become much, much safer.
Yeah, a lot of the problems nowadays gonna just disappear.
Yeah, we won't have zero problem. We'll have much less problem.
Yeah, and I hear CCP said that Russia is the small potatoes. CCP is #1 threat to the world. Yes, agree.
Okay, I think that will be all for today. 1 hour. I'm just Hollis, right? I'm sorry. Let's skip the joke today. And make sure we have that in the next show.
Yeah, and actually today we had many more comments on Safe Chat. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, just remember that Safe
great.
Chat, we have our show there, Unstoppable show there. It's a great platform. And then for both our YouTube and the Safe Chat viewers, thank you very much. Please make sure you click the like and on the YouTube. And today we actually have quite a few, many more viewers than before.
Yeah, let's see. Just maybe a couple of comments on Safe Chat. Skoldra said we cannot allow tyranny or communism to gain ground anywhere. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And the world needs. Alex, you wrote that. Alex Poirot, the world needs to clearly recognize Taiwan as a sovereign, independent country, not as part of China. The statement of Taiwan as part of the PRC is a self-proclaimed statement from CCP. It bears no truth. ROC is not PRC. Yeah. So why do our government keep repeating that thing? We have no need to repeat that. Only one country believes in that, which is PRC. Nobody else believes in that. Why do we, even bother repeating their self-claimed statement? Is that just bears no value and shall not be recognized by anyone.
Yeah, because decades of the U.S.-China policy already proven, with CCP, it's not normal. It cannot be even called as a government. Actually, as when I interviewed that Ukrainian American, he believes CCP cannot be even called as a government, and our U.S.-China policy for the past decades, right, already showed, initially we think, we can, through the trade, through our goodwills,
change them.
Yeah, it will change them politically. No, they won't. And so why you think the nice words about not openly, firmly recognize Taiwan will change CCP's mind? Yeah.
Yeah, they only understand one thing, strength. It's a shame. They don't understand any other value. It's a shame on them. But since they only understand strength, the free world shall just use strength and give up our imagination, our fantasy of that we can change or reconcile with the CCP. Anyway, thank you for staying with us and explore, with us, the truth of our world.
Yeah, as more people recognize, understand the truth, and there will be the hope.
Yeah, truth is the most powerful thing in this world. Yeah, we just need some more time, a bit more time. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, great to have you tonight.
Yeah,
okay.
Take care.
Take care, good night, and see you on Wednesday
right.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.